Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Northwest Craftsman. Today I'm going to be upgrading my table saw from 2.5-inch dust collection up to a 4-inch dust collection because it just works better with the 4-inch system that I have throughout the shop. If you're interested in why you shouldn't be coupling your 4-inch system down to a 2.5-inch system or any sort of drop like that, go ahead and stick around to the end of the video and I'll give you a full explanation of why you might want to just leave it at 4-inch all the way across or 2.5-inch all the way across. Alrighty, let's get going. Alrighty, just to give you guys a preview of what it looks like in here, there's all the sawdust that's built up all the way around, and you can't see how dark it is right there. But I'm going to go ahead and pull this access panel off and show you guys how bad it is on the inside, and then I'm going to clean it up so that we can get all the measurements I need. Well, if you're an archaeologist, this might be cool, but I am a woodworker, not an archaeologist. So, I mean, though it is kind of cool to see the different projects that I've done over time, this is not healthy for your table saw, not healthy for my table saw in any way, shape, or form. So I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned out, and then we'll get the measurements we need to replace the bottom with a 4-inch dust collection. Looking carefully here, you can see that there's a plastic tray here at the bottom that's meant for the dust collection to kind of funnel it into the port. We've got 1, 2, and there's one in the back and another one in the back over there. Nuts that are holding, there are nuts and bolts that are holding this in place. The rest of the tabs are just tabs that come up to either hold wires or ground out the motor or the control box over here. So the only thing that I need to do is basically measure how far I need to get underneath these bolts or this pan all the way around, find a replacement for it that's at 4 inches. Alrighty, and then after searching for a couple of days, the best thing that I could find was this PowerTech Big Gulp. And it is the right width, but it is not the right depth. And so the challenge that I'm running into is what orientation I want to put this in. And my thought is I'll probably put it in like this, put it somewhere right in the middle where I don't have bolts on either side, and then put a sheet of 1/4-inch plywood on either side of this so that it supports it. So I'll have a little bit of an area where it can, the dust can settle up, but it should be pulling a lot harder so that it can't do that too much and can't get too high. Similar to the flat areas that you see back there and here, there's only so high they can go if you're actually extracting properly. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off these 4 nuts all the way around. I'm going to lift this up and I'm going to try and get this set underneath so I can figure out how large I need those pieces of 1/4-inch ply so that I can get it set up properly. All right, and there she is. So per the usual, lessons learned as I was doing this is, initially I did not want this 1/4-inch ply to go underneath these because I wanted to make sure that they still had plenty of room to come down. That was dumb because they're gonna have to come down anyways because you've got this little tiny gap here. So all the way around I basically just barely had to balance this on top of the sheet that I just cut larger than the hole. Yeah, that was dumb. So if I was going to do this over again, would just put the 1/4-inch ply all the way around, drill holes in the locations that I needed to, and then just make sure that this was set in place the way that it needed to be. So that way, all of this sheet metal all the way around the edge is properly supported. But I got everything in place and I don't really have that much more flat space than I had previously, and I've got a full 4-inch port down here at the bottom. I put the steep side on the side with the motor so that I could make sure that if anything was going to be building up, it was on this side, not on this side, because this should fall in a little bit more easily, or at least that's my thought. But yeah, we should be ready to go. Alrighty guys, thank you for sticking around. I really appreciate it. So one of the reasons why you don't necessarily want to try and couple from a 4-inch system down to a 2.5-inch system, or actually the reverse also works, is that the 2.5-inch systems are intended for shop vacs, which have low volumetric flow but high pressure drop, which work really well in small and contained systems. Notice when you're trying to vacuum stuff up off the floor, you get a small region around the entrance to the shop vac hose, which sucks in real nicely. But if you take your 4-inch dust collection hose, it doesn't do nearly as good a job trying to suck stuff off the floor. So The reason you don't necessarily want to mix those two is that they have two totally different intended purposes, and as soon as you cross the boundary between those two systems, they work far less effectively than they would have otherwise. Imagine going from a 2.5 inch up to a 4 inch, you get basically no flow, and I bet you could put that basically flat on the floor and get nothing off of it. Just the same way, if you put a 4 inch system down to a 2.5 inch system, which is what I have a lot of in my shop because I didn't upgrade the whole thing at once, you also don't get a lot of volumetric flow because you're necking down that entire piece, and the large centrifugal pumps that you get on most 4 inch dust collection systems can't generate the pressure or drop necessary to cause airflow to go through that 2.5 inch port. So again, that's why my table saw clogged up, and that's why I recommend you stick with either 4 inch all the way through or 2.5 inch all the way through. And for me, that means upgrading all of my tools to accept 4 inch dust collection so that they can collect at their optimal efficiency. Alrighty, so on the whole, not really a difficult upgrade. I'm really glad that I did it. The biggest challenge that I had is as a one-man show trying to get the entire cast iron tabletop all the way up onto those sawhorses and back down. So if you have somebody that can come out and help you lift your table saw off the cabinet, or the table saw plus the cabinet off the stand that it's on, it's gonna make your life a lot easier. And then also, like I had made the comment, just put that sheet of plywood all the way across the bottom. And the reason I didn't give specific dimensions is because I've got a pretty obscure table saw. If you do happen to have this table saw, go ahead and reach out to me. I can tell you the dimensions that I used, but realistically, it's a lot easier just to measure what you actually have on hand, and that will work for any table saw that you have that you're trying to get it for. I've left a link to the Big Gulp down in the description below. I also have it on my Amazon page where I have all the stuff that I use. So thank you guys for using those links. It does give me a small percentage, like 2.5 or 3% or something like that on any of the purchases that you make, which may not seem like a lot, but when a bunch of you guys use them, it does help me out on the channel. So thank you guys tons. I really appreciate it. And if you've made it to this point in the video, thank you for sticking around. I love having you guys, and I really appreciate it. If you want to get some merchandise that has Northwest Craftsman stuff on it, I also have a link for that in the description. And if you like the kind of content we're producing here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit like on this video, comment, ask questions, etc. I do love seeing all of your questions, and I do get back to literally every single one of them, unless it's a really snarky response. I've gotten a few of those, and it's just like, I don't need to touch those. So anyways, thank you guys for sticking around. I really appreciate it. Go make some sawdust and collect it properly through some new dust collection. Have a great one, you guys. See you later. Bye.